Well, hello, everybody. It is almost 6 o'clock, so I will do my little intro here. We are very excited to be welcoming Ben Pernick here. He is a certified music therapist who is going to do some Broadway music and trivia for us tonight. Um, Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Ben. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Anne. It's great to be here with all of you. And I figured we'd get started off with a little number from Cabaret that I think is it's a good one to just get everyone in the mood. What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret. Put down your knitting, your book, and your broom. It's time for a holiday. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret. Come taste the wine. Come hear the band. 'Cause now it's time for celebrating. Right this way, your table's waiting. No use permitting some prophet of doom to wipe all the smiles away. Life is a cabaret, oh chum. Come to the cabaret. All right, so I see that everyone, you don't have to have your video and microphones off, but you can if you want. You can do it however you like, but if you're doing it that way, I think it's really fun, like when we're able to communicate, so you can use the chat, just type and hit enter, because I want to see what if there was one musical. It doesn't necessarily have to be Broadway. It could be, like a TV or movie musical. But what is, if you could like go see one, what is the one that you would go see that you haven't seen yet? I know for me, for example, like my answer was Hamilton for a while, except now I saw it on Disney Plus, so I feel like I kind of saw it. But yeah, feel free to turn on the cameras, microphones, but if not, that's okay too. As a musician, I always up to improvising. But yeah, I think Hamilton would be my choice too. It's just a lot of fun, and even if it's not with the original cast, still I think it's just like a real spectacle to see on stage. And I think it's just really interesting, the like the history of Broadway. Hamilton as well. Yeah, it's a tough thing, of course, was for a while the tickets were so expensive that it was like, but now I think it's at least gone down to something semi-reasonable. But I'm coming to you from New York, not New York, but Brooklyn, close enough. And I think Broadway, a lot of people, I used to live on Broadway, but it didn't mean that I was in the musicals, because Broadway is actually a street that goes, it's one of the longest streets that goes through New York. It actually goes 33 miles, all the way, like even outside the city limits for another 18 miles, goes through the Bronx, everything. But it's just kind of funny that the whole history behind it, because it was originally known as the Great White Way, and Great White having nothing to do with sharks. It was actually because the theater district in New York was one of the first ones to be fully illuminated by white electric bulbs way back in the 1890s. And since then, the Broadway signage was, very brightly illuminated. So of course, people coming from all over, in New York was still not like fully formed back then, lots of swampland and everything, but you knew when you saw those bright lights that, it was what you had to see, and it had great advertising potential, they realized too. In fact, the lights of Broadway have really never been dimmed except during World War I, when public demand, because of World War I, because they needed to, it costs a lot of money and coal to keep those lights going, or at least it did back then. But public demand ultimately forced the government to increase the city's coal ration to restore the lights, which I think is just pretty funny. Now, here's a question for you, because you probably won't know this, but I think you'll at least find it somewhat amusing. What in in the rows at a Broadway theater. They have all the letters A, B, C, but then there's one letter that they skip, that they do not have. Anyone want to take a guess what letter that is that they skip? F. Good guess, but it's not F. But I know it seems like just a random, like, could be any letter, why not? The answer is actually I. And for a while, they had all the letters. So you'd say, well, why did they ban the letter I? Well, it was because, not because it's, so that's a good guess, because it could be the 13th row. But that is not why. I is banned because when people used to get their tickets and it said I, they thought it was the Roman numeral 1. So people would go into the front seat and say, hey, I'm sitting here. No, I'm sitting. And fights actually would break out a lot of times at the start of the show. So for a few shows, they even had to, stop the opening number because there was such a commotion. So they realized that the I looks too much like a 1, and some people not realizing that it's letters instead of numbers, they just said, you know what, let's just do away with the I altogether, so that there's fewer fights getting into the seats, because New Yorkers are already, aggressive enough as it is. So I think that's, kind of a fun one. And this is a song that you might know, it mentions a few of the places in New York. And that's Give My Regards to Broadway. There we go. Give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square. Tell all my friends at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long. Give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square. Tell all my friends at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long. Some of the ere long, that's not a phrase you hear too much nowadays, but still just one of those great classic songs that mentions a lot of the different locations in Broadway. And here's some more questions for everyone. Now, this is actually one of the first musicals that I saw. I'm actually very lucky because, I live growing up, I lived very close to New York, just about an hour's drive away. Only one problem, my parents were complete homebodies. They didn't, they liked to stay in the suburbs. The city wasn't for them. So I really didn't see a lot until my grandma, who came from Michigan, she would come visit and say, I'm coming to the city, coming to all the way to New York. We better see a Broadway show. So we did. And that's how I got to see, every time she would visit, then I'd see a Broadway show. So this musical was actually the longest running of all the Broadway musicals. I should say longest continuous running. And if not for the pandemic shutdown, it would still be running. Not Cats. A good guess though, because Cats has had a pretty long run as well. But I believe Cats stopped and then there was a revival, where this one has been continuously running the whole time. And I hope might have to, yes, Nancy got it. Phantom of the Opera, since 1988, continuously running. And the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, yes, very well done. See, a lot of these it's pretty tough, but Phantom of the Opera, it's actually, there have been, over the course of, the 30 something years that it's been running, they've had over 15 different people play the Phantom. And they also each Phantom, they get custom made masks. So it's that means that because sometimes they break or they get worn down, there's over 300 different masks, and there are over 12,500 performances staged to 18 million people. Of course, a lot of it is tourists, but I'll say that when I was there, I was pretty young. That was one of the first musicals I saw, and nobody told me about the chandelier falling part, and I may have let out a rather audible yelp. So I think probably everyone else was a little scared, so they didn't hold it against me. But it's I wish they gave me a little warning. Maybe next time I'll be ready. So yes, it's just a really impressive one. Now, I said Phantom is the longest continuously running musical, but this one is the longest running revival. This musical, it actually didn't last very long when it first started, but then the revival has lasted much longer. And yep, Chicago, yes. Everyone, we got that one, yes. And that one is just a really awesome one. I actually, for a while, was friends with someone who was the piano player for Chicago. So I thought that was really cool because, of course, they're the piano player, unlike a normal pit orchestra where everyone's underneath. You're kind of part of the show, which is pretty great. We have some musical experts here. So, and of course, that one's based on the real life 1924 Windy City murder case that was transformed by reporter Maureen Watkins rather, into a Broadway comedy. You would think it's not exactly the topic for a comedy, but I think if we've learned from Broadway, you can, really make pretty much anything into a great comedy if you have the right approach. In fact, this musical was originally a very sad, the original version of the musical that I'm thinking of here, it was produced by Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick, who did the lyrics and the music. And this one, while it hasn't necessarily had the longest continuous run on Broadway, it's definitely become like a cultural icon in a sense. It's performed all around the world. People know it. And that one, and the main character's name is Tevye. Yes, Fiddler on the Roof. Excellent, yeah. And my brother actually, he got to be the Tevye for the school play. It was the way they bribed him not to do sports, that they let him be Tevye. And he really wanted to to grow out his own beard. He was a method actor. He wasn't going to put on some fake beard. Well, it turns out that when you're a high school student, it doesn't quite grow in the way you think it will. So in the end, he had to put the fake beard over his real patchy beard. But it's just a really fun musical. And this is probably the most iconic song, even though there's several great ones. But the funny thing about this one is that the original adaptation of the story of Tevye the Milkman, it was originally kind of more of a tragedy. And when you think of it, parts of the story are kind of sad, but it was like a dramatic play, and it flopped. The play was called Tevye from early around 1939. I don't remember the exact year, but it was a flop because everyone said it's too depressing. I don't want to watch that. But then it took Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick to be like, okay, let's find a way to make this fun and funny. And with the songs like this one, If I Were a Rich Man, you definitely get that. If I were a rich man, all day long I'd bitty bitty bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. If I were an itty bitty rich, Idle deedle diddle diddle man. I'd build a big tall house with rooms by the dozen right in the middle of the town, with a fine tin roof and real wooden floors below. There would be one long staircase just going up, and another even longer coming down, and another leading nowhere just for show. I'd fill my yard with turkeys and geese and ducks further down to see and hear, squawking just as noisily as they can. And every would land like a trumpet on the ear, as if to say, here lives a wealthy man. Oh, if I were a rich man, all day long I'd a bitty bitty bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. If I were an itty bitty rich, idle deedle diddle diddle man. All right, now here is I stumped some people with this question about Fiddler on the Roof. How many daughters does Tevye the milkman have? Of course, now that I told you that it stumps you, maybe you will get it, but. So 3, a great guess, what most people think, but not the correct answer. And I actually had thought it was 3 for the longest time, which is why I love this one. Yeah, and there's a good reason that you would guess that it's 3, because when you think, oh, what's the story of Fiddler on the Roof? There's the 3 daughters. There's the one who marries the tailor. There's the one who marries the political activist, and then the last one. But yes, there were 2 younger sisters too. So yes, 5 in total, Nancy. You got it. Because and the reason why 2 of them don't really factor in so prominently is because they weren't of marrying age yet. Which of course back then, what they defined as marrying age, we might not necessarily consider here in the US nowadays. But it's pretty funny nonetheless. But they do all get a little role in some of the numbers, like matchmaker. Yeah, it's easy to miss those younger 2, but if you watch it again, you'll notice more so in the beginning. You'll see them. Now, here's another question. This is one of my favorite pieces of trivia, just generally, because this country has put on the most productions per capita of any country outside, and this is outside the U.S. But this country has put on Fiddler more than any other musical. And it's not Israel either. Because I know that's probably the first thing to guess. Feel free to, and there's no penalty, feel free to guess, take as many guesses as you want. Russia, London, England, good guesses. Actually, it was banned in Russia because, some of the themes, they thought it was too harsh on Russia. Not Poland either. It's give up. It's actually Japan. Yes, really, Japan is there. Yeah, why? It's great. It's a great guess because you would think, you look at the costumes, the tradition, it has nothing alike. But actually, when it was first brought to Japan, they just instantly fell in love with it because they said they felt that the themes, of tradition versus modernity, that's just something that's so, so pivotal to the Japanese way of life. And, so actually when they came out with the movie version, which became very popular, they actually thought it was going to be a flop because they said American audiences won't understand this. The Fiddler is so Japanese. And if you want, just sometime when you're bored and you just want to find something fun to watch, which of course nowadays, it's always good to do. You can see on YouTube, there are a lot of Japanese productions of Fiddler on the Roof where you can see that, see them singing the songs and everything. And it's a little strange, but very entertaining. That's for sure. Now, we said the longest running musical. We've talked about a lot of the very iconic ones, but this one was the big money maker. Out of all the Broadway shows, it's the highest grossing. And that might be a little surprising considering that it, you know, it came out of a Disney movie, but the stage adaptation is very different from the movie version. Yes, Joe got it. The Lion King, which I am sad to say I actually have not gotten to see on Broadway. Got to see most of the other Disney-based ones. Oh, yeah. Jersey Boys would be a good guess too, but Lion King, in 20 years that it's run on Broadway, it's grossed over $1.4 billion and averaging about $2 million a week, which is just pretty wild. And one other thing that's, I think, really great about Lion King is Julie Taymor was the director of The Lion King, and she became the first woman in Broadway history to win the Tony Award for Best Director of a Musical. You know, like a lot of other creative spaces, it's pretty male dominated, but to win that award for Best Director, I mean, that's a really big honor. So, and she deserves it with, you know, just how iconic The Lion King is. However, this was the first musical to feature an all-female creative team. And it was pretty recent. And it was a singer who really brought this to Broadway. Ooh, that's a good question. Does the gross only count for Broadway or touring shows? I think it only counts for Broadway, I think. Which is, even though with touring shows, a lot of times you can make a lot of money that way. But the funny thing with Broadway is they're very particular about what is and isn't Broadway. And I'll more on that in a second. Does anyone know this is the musical with the all-female creative team and featuring, thanks to the creative genius of Sarah Bareilles. And if you don't know Sarah Bareilles, that's also okay, but that is Waitress, which is just a pretty great musical that has, yeah, everybody in the creative team, or at least the top spots were all women, and just power to her for getting that going. Now, we'll go into a game in a little bit, but first I wanted to say, because we were just talking about what is and isn't Broadway, and they're very particular. There's a certain amount of seats that you need to have, and I'll give this one, I'll make multiple choice because there's no way probably. So this is the amount of seats that you need to have, this or more, for it to count as Broadway. A few other things too, but this also. So is it 100 seats, 500 seats, or 800 seats? But yes, Nancy got it, 500 seats. And it also needs to be between 40th and 54th Street and a few avenues. So it's, but most people think, oh, well, Broadway, it's one long street that has all the, all the theaters. But actually, out of, I think there's something in the 50s usually of Broadway shows running, and at any given time, something in the 40s to 50s, but only 4 of the theaters, I did 3 with my fingers, only 4 of the theaters, oh my God, 4 of the theaters are actually on Broadway, the actual street. So it's just pretty fun. Okay, so I think since we've talked a bit about Broadway, we'll do another song, and I think for this one, definitely some good choices. But I think we haven't really done any Rodgers and Hammerstein, and I think they're really great. And this one is from The King and I, Getting to Know You. You are precisely my cup of tea. Getting to know you, having things free and easy. Now that I'm with you, knowing just what to say. Haven't you noticed? Suddenly I'm bright and breezy because of all the beautiful and new things I'm learning about you day by day. So yeah, that one from King and I was featured. That was Deborah Kerr. And do you remember who played the king in The King and I? He was as the king of Siam, even though he definitely was not in any way. Yes, Yul Brynner. You spelled his name a lot better than every time I try, I get it wrong. But yes, Yul Brynner. And there was a funny thing that he almost turned down the role. Because at first he was excited, but then they said, oh, but if you're taking this role, there's one thing we need you to do. And he said, no way. Anyone want to take a guess? What was it that they asked him to do that he initially refused? Yes, to shave his head. But his wife, she talked him into it, and she said maybe because she saw the big paycheck coming, but she said, you know what? Maybe you'll get used to it. And sure enough, he got a lot of fame from that role, and people said, hey, you look pretty good with this look. And he really kept it for a lot of the rest of his acting career. So good lesson. Always listen to your wife. She knows best. So yeah, just a little fun fact about that. Now, I want to break it up and have a nice, this is based on the game Scattergories, where we're going to think of a few musical topics. And I want to start by, why don't we just start with naming Broadway musicals. Now, it's going to be, I'm going to set a timer because I want to see how many answers we can get. There's going to be a few different categories. So the first one is Broadway musicals, and try to do it from memory. I know everyone has Google now and can cheat, but you know what? It's not fun that way. So I'm going to set that timer. We're going to first see how many Broadway musicals we can get, and I'm going to be tallying up the answers. And then we're going to go to songs with the word love in it. So, and then I'll let you know the next category once the answers die down. All right, so let's get going. So I'll give some hints too to keep the pace moving. And so again, this is some Broadway musicals. We have named a few. Joseph, and yes, I love that one. Les Mis. This one was the first Disney musical. Tootsie, good. Anyone know the first Disney musical? Also based on a movie, including hits like Be Our Guest. Yes, Beauty and the Beast. All right, keep it going with some others. It's part of the thing is it's really hard when you're suddenly asked to think of them, even if you probably when you wake up at like 3, you'll wake up at 3 in the morning today being like, oh, I have all these answers suddenly. Music Man, yes. Aladdin, also great. And this one, Sound of Music, of course, classic. This one has To Dream the Impossible Dream. And it had Brian Stokes Mitchell as Don Quixote. Now, that one was Man of La Mancha, but not one of the most popular ones. I liked it. Okay, there's definitely more. Jesus Christ Superstar. Oh, Maine, yes. Too Darn Hot was it that started the second act of this one. Your good man, Charlie Brown. The one with Too Darn Hot and another opening, another show. Starts with a K. That one's Kiss Me Kate. So we'll see if we can get a few more and then we'll move on to the next category. You're doing great. Jesus Christ Superstar, another good one. This was the first one that had nudity on the stage. Ooh, Unsinkable Molly Brown. And it also had a big radio hit with Age of Aquarius, as well as the song that was also the name of the musical. Hair, yes. Any others? Trying to think of the ones. Well, of course, there's the one that we said we all want to see. That's Hamilton, Oklahoma. Book of Mormon, yes. The Producers, fantastic. Godspell. See, now we're rolling. Jersey Boys. This one also starts with a G. Funny Thing Happened, yes. Grease. Moulin Rouge. All right, we're up to over 25 answers. Hairspray. Okay, let's go to the next category now, and that is songs with love in the title. A lot of love songs. Not as many with love in the title, though. Can you feel the love tonight? Yes. This one's a tricky one. That was a good one also from a musical. These songs don't have to be from musicals, by the way. It can be like pop songs or anything like that. It's funny, I'm supposed to be, it's hard sometimes for me to think of them too. There's so many songs. Well, there's an older one that says, you have to give a little, take a little, and let your poor heart break a little. That's the glory of, or the story of, love is a many splendored thing. Think Beatles. Beatles have a few songs with love in the title. One that I was mentioning, that's the story of, that's the glory of love. All you need is love, yes. There's one. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum. This is the Beatles one. It has a little harmonica solo. That one is Love Me Do. And then there's another Beatles song that has love with yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, we'll see if we can get a few others. I know this one's a tougher one. Deceptively tough. Any other songs with love? Love makes the world go round. Excellent. Okay, now for the next one. Since we were talking about Broadway, think of, I was going to say singers, but let's make it just celebrities. Celebrities whose name, first or last, begins with a B. That way, if you're a big fan of TV, also, You can get some people. Bobby Brown. All right, that's 2 points right there. Bette Midler. Doing great. Burt Lancaster. Ooh, love the variety. And Barry Manilow. Love these answers. Biggie Smalls, yes. Betty Davis. And of course, you can't forget this actress from the Golden Girls. B. Arthur. I think there's another one who has a B in her name too. I think she's still alive. Yes, Betty White. I think this one, he definitely starred in quite a few films. Not too many famous Humphreys. Oh, Bob Newhart. Brendan Fraser. That's a blast from the past for me. But who was that famous Humphrey? Definitely had an involvement with the Rat Pack. Ooh, Bill Murray. Yes, Humphrey Bogart. And I believe there was someone else. I'm not sure if it was his wife, but there was someone else in the Rat Pack, and her name and the last name began with a B. Boris Karloff. The one I was thinking of was Laura Bacall. Yes, you got it just at the same time. Ingrid Bergman. This is great. We're reviewing like so many of these. Mel Brooks, yes. One of my favorites, especially Airplane. All right, 3 more, and then we'll get to the final category. Britney Spears, yes. I said celebrity, so I'll go for the baseball great. Oh, Barbara Streisand, yes. Lucille Ball. Okay, that's a great way to end that. And now for the final round, food beginning with B. Beef. All right. Banana. Bacon. Brats, I saw. Beans. Good for your heart. Broccoli. Okay. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Sounds good though. Of course, you can't have a sandwich without 2 of these. Bread, yes. Bologna, yes. All right, we have just 30 seconds left. Let's see how many more we can rack up. Ooh, sounds good. Berries. Trying to think of I know when I go to IHOP, there's a syrup called boysenberry. We can add that one. These ones are also known as bran, of course. Okay, there is our timer. I managed to keep a tally going. How many answers do you think we got in total? Wild guess. Well, let's see. Compare your answer. "72 answers. All right. Way to go. I know it's late, but it's fun once your brain kind of like gets warmed up to thinking that way. All of a sudden, the answers, things just start coming to mind, which I think is one of the great things about all that. So And we mentioned the producers at one point. They actually are the winner of the most Tony Awards. And does anyone know how many they won? Was it 8? Was it 10? Or was it 12 Tony Awards? 10 is a great guess. But actually, they managed to win 12, which is really impressive. And pretty surprising considering that the movie, the producers, when that came out, was a pretty big flop. And it wasn't all that different. But, Mel Brooks, many great films, but sometimes it took a while for them to get their footing. And the producers, the musical, just fantastic. However, this one it didn't win the most Tony Awards, but it did win the most nominations. And this was a recent one. Was this one, was it Come From Away? Was it Hadestown or Hamilton? Hamilton, yes, with 16. A lot of people thought that maybe it would unseat the producers, but it was in a year where there were lots of other good musicals too. So even despite all the hype, the producers still hold that honor. Now, here's some just general questions about musicals. In this one, Jack sings, "There are giants in the sky." So that's a bit of a hint for this one, which was a musical based on Sondheim. This one, not the easiest one, but I think they turned it into a movie. Yes, Nancy got it, Into the Woods. I actually hadn't seen it on Broadway, but I did see the movie version. I thought it was pretty good. Not an easy one to make a movie, but pretty impressive. Now, this one is an older one, but just a classic one, where a helicopter is featured prominently on stage. Yes, Miss Saigon. That's one of the first things you think of when you think of Miss Saigon, because just a really great one. Now, this was the rival of the rival gang of the Sharks in West Side Story. Yes, the Jets. You got it. I'm Ben, so I got Benny and the Jets. Fantastic. Now, let's keep this going because we're doing fantastic now. What is the name of Annie's dog in the musical Annie? This was the dog, and she escapes the orphanage. It's a stray dog that she finds and comforts him. Sings Tomorrow. And then she realizes the dog catcher is after him, so she pretends the dog is hers by calling him. That one is Sandy. Not the most common name for a dog, but now this one stumps some people too. In Hamilton, and I know you haven't seen it on Broadway yet, so you might not know, but which character in Hamilton sings "The Room Where It Happens"? No idea. Well, so a lot of people think that, oh, well, of course, it's got to be Hamilton. But actually, this one was sung by Aaron Burr. Basically, the whole song is about, yes, you got it, Nancy, because basically the whole song is about, Alexander Hamilton suddenly gets influence in forming a new government, and he's singing about how he's jealous of him and wants to be in the room where it happens, but he's not. And actually, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who basically directed, produced and was the lead actor in Hamilton, he actually kind of said he regretted not being Hamilton and not Aaron Burr just because of he loved the room where it happened so much. But I think when you see it on Broadway, he's not to say he's not very talented, but I think he cast it appropriately because Leslie Odom just kills it in that song in a good way. I know with Aaron Burr, he did some other killing that wasn't so good, but if not for that, we wouldn't have the musical. So fantastic. Now, this one is another one that I didn't realize the first time I saw it because I was very young. But Jean in Les Mis, what was Jean Valjean imprisoned for? What was it that he did? The heinous crime he committed that got him imprisoned for a long, long time. Stealing a loaf of bread. You're on a roll, Nancy. That is absolutely correct, which I think went to also just show how unfair the treatment was back then. Now, so it's your favorite musical, so that would explain it. So I'm sure you have your strong opinions about the movie version, Russell Crowe as Javert, because I know my brother, who's like a pretty good singer, just said, no, 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 no. Now, okay, here's one more. The Phantom of the Opera begins. Yeah, nothing like the live production. I think that's true generally, especially with Cats, because I didn't see the musical, the movie. I saw the musical, but I saw the trailer, and that was pretty weird, to be honest. And not if you like it, I'm not going to yuck your yum, but yeah, I think it's better alive. So this one, The Phantom of the Opera, what does the musical begin with? Was it a fist fight? Was it an opera? Or was it an auction? Yes. Yes, this one was the auction. A lot of people think, oh, well, it's Phantom of the Opera. It's got to be an opera. But no, first the auctioneer presents you know, a few different figures. I think like there's a monkey, and then there's like a shattered chandelier that, and alluding to the strange affair of the Phantom of the Opera, a mystery never fully explained. And that is kind of the lead into the whole story. So, okay, now we mentioned the Music Man. And this one I'm going to try to do with no multiple choice. But what was the profession of Harold Hill, our protagonist? Salesman? I could accept that, but yes, con man is the more accurate answer. He pretended to really like be or a huckster, however you wanted to call it, a grifter, but and I think when I first watched it, I didn't fully understand it, but because I was too young. But yes, he presents the whole idea, gets everyone hyped about having this marching band, and asks for the money, for the instruments, gets the kids all excited, and then gets with all the money, doesn't deliver the instruments and skips town and does the same trick to the next town until, of course, flim flam, man. I haven't heard that term in a while, but I love it. So, but of course, in the end, he becomes a good person because otherwise he would be a terrible protagonist, wouldn't he? So, yeah, you're all very knowledgeable about all of this, and it's pretty fun. Just there's so much trivia because there's so many musicals, and this one's some more recent one. But what musical tells the story of the friends Elphaba and Galinda? Yes, Wicked. Okay, well that one was not the toughest one, but here's another one that's a little more difficult. In Fiddler on the Roof, at one point the song kind of breaks, and one of the daughters impersonates this character. A good guess, not the grandmother. No, she has a feature, I think, yeah, she has her own song in a dream sequence. But yes, it was the matchmaker. Does anyone remember her name? That one was Yenta the matchmaker. And it's that role was so iconic that it's sort of become a bit of a slang just generally. If like being even though Yenta means something different, is to say, oh, I'll be the Yenta, I'll be the matchmaker. So now the musical Mamma Mia was a musical based on the songs of what popular music group? Yes, ABBA. You got it before I even finished. Very good. And let's see. So we mentioned Phantom of the Opera. I'm trying to think of one that we haven't mentioned. Oh, so this was a musical, a very great one, but that actually had 9/11 as the backdrop for the musical. Yes, Come From Away. Nancy knows her recent musicals, which is very impressive. One that I haven't seen, but from everyone I've heard who's seen it, just said it's really fantastic. So now we had talked a lot about Hamilton, and I know we're still waiting for Broadway to actually open, but even if you see the movie, yeah, way to go, Nancy. This was one of my favorite numbers. Well, there's two. There's the very funny one, and this one is not one of the biggest numbers from Hamilton, but it does actually have the fastest rapping of any Broadway musical. Granted, there's not so many that had rapping, but this one's a tough one. Anyone know the particular song where Daveed Diggs breaks the record for the fastest rapping? If you don't know this one, I don't blame you, because again, it's not one of the big ones, but this one is Guns and Ships, which is sort of like towards the beginning of the musical, where they're basically saying that they're outnumbered and things are not looking good, but they have a Frenchman, a compadre on the inside who kind of helps give them the upper hand. So I haven't done this one in a while, and now this is a musical number that has many different parts. I'm going to try to do all of them and the rap, because why not? How does a ragtag volunteer army in need of a shower somehow defeat a global superpower? How do we emerge victorious from the quagmire, leave the battlefield waving Betsy Ross's flag higher? Yo, turns out we have a secret weapon, an immigrant you know and love who's unafraid to step in. He's constantly confusing, confounding the British henchmen. Everyone give it up for America's favorite fighting Frenchman, Lafayette. Taking this horse by the reins, making red coats red with blood stains. Lafayette, you're never gonna stop until I make your trouble burn up and scatter the remains. I'm Lafayette, watch me engaging him, escaping him, enraging him. I'm Lafayette, go to France with more funds, come back with more guns and ships, and so the balance shifts. We rendezvous with Rochambeau, consolidate their gifts. We can end this war at Yorktown, cut them off at sea, but for this to succeed, there's someone else we need. I know, Hamilton, sir, he knows what to do in a trench, ingenuitive and fluent in French. I mean, Hamilton, sir, you're gonna have to use him eventually. What's he gonna do on the bench? I mean, Hamilton, no one has my resilience or matches my practical, tactical brilliance. Hamilton, gotta fight for your hand back. Hamilton, get your right-hand man back. Oh, get your right-hand man back. You know you gotta get your right-hand man back. I know you gotta put some thought into the ladder, but the sooner the better to get your right-hand man back. Alexander Hamilton, troops are waiting in the fields for you. If you join us right now, together we can turn the tide. Oh, Alexander Hamilton, I have soldiers that'll yield for you. If we manage to get this right, they'll surrender by early light. The world will never be the same. Alexander. All right, I love the dancing emojis. Thank you. Wow, I haven't done that in a while. I'm surprised I remember all the words, but yeah, like I said, it's pretty fast. I don't know if he probably did it faster, but it's a really fun one, as you can tell. But we may as well finish with Hamilton. Why not? So because this one is just a really fun number, and I couldn't stop laughing even when I just saw it on the movie, through Disney Plus. But because Jonathan Groff just does the king very well. I can't even explain it, but it's just great. And this is his big number. And that one, does anyone know what that song is? The big number of Jonathan Groff. The other songs of his that he has later are really just reprises of this song, this is sort of like a breakup song with the United States. And that one's called You'll Be Back. And for people who really get into like the nitty gritty of musicals, one thing that I really love about this one is like most of the song, it's like rap. It has a certain kind of sound to it, certain instrumentation, where this one sounds nothing like all the other songs. It's like a Brit pop song, sounds like something from like a 70s Brit pop song. And it also features very old British instruments like the viola da gamba, which I think is just a good way of saying, okay, this guy is completely out of touch with everybody else in America. You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry and then hurl your tea in the sea as you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. Don't forget that you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We will see each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. You say our love is draining and it can't go on. You'll be the one complaining when I am gone. So no, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite subject, my sweet submissive subject, my loyal royal subject, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You'll be back like before. We will fight the fight and win the war. For your love, for your praise, and I love you till my dying days. With you gone, I'll go mad, but don't throw away this thing we had. 'Cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. All right. Had to finish with that one, because glad that king didn't stick around. Anyway, I wanted to thank you all for joining, Joe and Nancy, and Anne. It was really just fun to have you here with the trivia. I hope you enjoyed the music too, and I also just hope that you have a wonderful weekend coming up.
And
Thanks.
I will just pop on real quickly to say
Sure.
thank you so much, Ben. This was so much fun. And Nancy and Joe, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, Ben Pernick, very excellent. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Have a good night.